The Galactic Council's central archives towered over Jessica Thompson like a crystalline mountain, its translucent walls refracting the light of 3 different suns. As a junior archivist, she'd spent the past 3 months cataloging thousands of standard diplomatic records, trade agreements, and the occasional minor border dispute. Nothing in her training had prepared her for what she found in Sublevel 7. The security scan tingled across her skin as she passed through the quantum barrier, her newly issued clearance badge pulsing with a soft blue light. The archives down here felt different, older, more urgent somehow. The data crystals lining the walls weren't arranged in the usual neat geometric patterns. Instead, they seemed to have been placed hastily, some even stacked in precarious towers that defied the archive's usual meticulous organization. Another late-night Thompson, the night guard, an elderly proximan named Kex, called out from his station. His crystalline exoskeleton caught the dim light as he gestured toward a particularly chaotic section. "Watch yourself over there. Some of those warnings are still actively broadcasting." Warnings. Jessica paused, her hand hovering over a data crystal that seemed to vibrate with barely contained energy. "I thought this was the historical conflict section." Kex's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a proximate expression of dark amusement. "Oh, it is. But these aren't records of what happened. They're warnings about what might happen if someone makes the wrong move against them." The crystal in Jessica's hand pulsed suddenly, projecting a holographic message that filled the air with alien script. The translation matrix in her neural implant converted it automatically. Critical warning. Priority Alpha. Sol System/Earth. Classification. Extreme hazard. Do not engage. Do not provoke. Species demonstrates unprecedented combat evolution. Further information available in attached combat records. Drachnid High Command. Jessica's professional detachment slipped as she noted the timestamp. This wasn't some ancient historical document. The Drachnid warning was less than 50 years old. Her fingers traced the crystal's edge, finding the neural interface port. Against her better judgment, she connected. The data flood nearly overwhelmed her implant. Thousands of reports, warnings, and desperate messages from hundreds of different species cascaded through her mind. Each one centered on a single, unremarkable yellow star system and its third planet. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking the data stream. Some of these reports contradict each other. One claims Earth has primitive projectile weapons, while another from the same time period warns about their quantum phase technology. "Both true, probably," Kex chittered, moving to stand beside her. "That's why. They're so dangerous. Never know what you're actually fighting until it's too late." Jessica pulled another crystal from the stack. This one was different. Newer, its surface still pristine. The message inside was brief, just static and 7 words. "If you value survival, leave them alone." Her hand trembled as she reached for another crystal, then another. Each told a different story, but the theme remained constant. Earth was undefeated. Not just undefeated, they had never even come close to losing. Species with technology thousands of years more advanced had tried and failed. Civilizations that had conquered hundreds of worlds were reduced to sending warning messages about a single planet. "I need to document this properly," Jessica said, her archivist training taking over. "There's no organization here, no proper cataloging system." Kex's crystalline form shimmered with what might have been fear. "Maybe there's a reason for that. Some things are better left buried." But Jessica was already setting up her workstation, her mind racing with questions. Why had no one properly studied these warnings? Why were they hidden away in this disorganized section? And most importantly, what had Earth done to generate such fear from so many powerful civilizations? As she began her work, a new message alert flashed across her vision. Something had just been added to the warning archive. Something new. Jessica's heart stopped as she read the source signature. It was from the Zenthari Collective. the most powerful civilization in the known galaxy. And unlike the other warnings, this one contained no technical data, no strategic analysis, no detailed reports. It contained only 2 words: they're evolving. Commander Kyle Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Opportunity, a retrofitted mining vessel that now bristled with hastily mounted railguns and missile pods. Through the reinforced viewport, he watched the Drachnid mining fleet approach Jupiter's orbit with the casual arrogance of someone who expected no resistance. "Status report," he ordered, his eyes fixed on the alien ship's formation. Their sleek, crystalline designs made his converted mining vessel look like ancient history. Lieutenant Sarah Parker's hands flew over the tactical display. 17 capital ships, Commander. Their energy signatures are off the charts compared to ours. They're running their mining beams at full power, looking to strip Jupiter's moons without even asking. Martins allowed himself a small smile. The Drachnid fleet's overconfidence would be their undoing, and our little surprise. "Ready and waiting, sir." Parker's voice carried a note of pride. "The asteroid belt has been modified according to your specifications." 6 months of secret preparation had gone into this moment. While the rest of Earth's government had focused on diplomatic protests, Martinez and his team had been converting the asteroid belt into the largest minefield in human history. Each carefully selected rock had been fitted with maneuvering thrusters and packed with mining explosives. Their original industrial purpose repurposed for something far more deadly. "Send the warning one last time," Martins ordered. Protocol demanded it, even though he knew how they'd respond. The message was simple: this is a restricted system. Your mining operations are unauthorized. Withdraw immediately. The Drachnid response came quickly, transmitted in perfect English. "Primitive species detected. Your technology level does not merit consultation rights. Continue your orbit, and be grateful we don't require your planet's resources." Martins keyed his command channel. "All ships, execute Operation Rock Garden. Remember, we're not fighting fair, we're fighting to win." The UES Opportunity and its sister ships, all former mining vessels, began what appeared to be a disorganized retreat. The Drachnid fleet followed, their mining beams powering up as they approached the asteroid belt. "They're taking the bait," Parker reported. "Their sensors are focused on our ships, not the surrounding space." Martins watched the distance counter tick down. 5 million kilometers. 3 million. 1 million. Now, across the asteroid belt, thousands of thrusters fired simultaneously. What had appeared to be random space debris transformed into a coordinated web of destruction. The Drachnid ships, their shields optimized for energy weapons, and their sensors seeking engine signatures, never saw the simple kinetic threat until it was too late. The first wave of asteroids struck at a relative velocity of 30 kilometers per second. Shields designed to deflect energy beams did nothing against simple mass and momentum. As the rocks shattered, the mining explosives inside detonated, creating clouds of high-speed shrapnel that shredded the crystalline hulls. "Multiple direct hits," Parker called out, her voice steady despite the chaos on her screens. "Their formation is breaking apart." The Drachnid fleet's response was predictable. They scattered, each ship trying to find clear space. It was exactly what Martinez had planned for. "Execute Phase 2, he ordered. The human ships stopped running. Their retrofitted mining beams, originally designed to cut through asteroid rock, had been modified for a new purpose. They fired as one, not at the Drachnid ships, but at the remaining asteroids around them. The space around the alien fleet filled with superheated rock vapor and shrapnel, creating a lethal storm that their sensors couldn't penetrate. In their panic to escape, 3 Drachnid ships collided. 2 more flew straight into waiting clusters of explosives. "They're transmitting a surrender signal," Parker announced, disbelief evident in her voice. Martins nodded slowly. "Accept it. and make sure every detail is recorded. The galaxy needs to know. Earth is not defenseless, and the Sol system is not free for taking. The entire battle had lasted less than 15 minutes. Of the 17 Drachnid ships that had entered the system, only 4 remained functional enough to limp away. Their retreat would become legend, not for its speed, but for the message it carried to the rest of the galaxy. Humans don't fight with superior technology. They fight with superior thinking. And they fight to win. Dr. Amanda Walker adjusted her uniform's collar as she faced the assembled Galactic Council. The vast chamber, designed to accommodate species from every known world, hummed with nervous energy. Her presentation had been moved up after the Jupiter incident, and now every eye, optical sensor, and sensory appendage was fixed on her. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice steady. "You've asked me here to explain why humans are undefeated in combat. The answer isn't in our technology or our numbers. It's in our games." The holoscreen behind her flickered to life, showing children playing hide and seek in a park. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. What you're watching is not, as many assume, simple recreation. This is primary combat training, begun almost as soon as humans can walk. She paused, letting that sink in. In this exercise, called hide and seek, children learn stealth, tactical positioning, and both pursuit and evasion techniques. A Zenthari representative's neural clusters pulsed with alarm. You train your young for war through play. It goes deeper, Amanda continued, the display changing to show children playing tag. This training exercise, tag, teaches pursuit predator tactics, stamina management, and battlefield awareness. By age 5, most human children have hundreds of hours of combat training they don't even recognize as such. The chamber erupted in worried whispers. A Drachnid diplomat, still bearing the marks of recent conflict, rose to speak. But our scan showed no military infrastructure around your education centers. Amanda smiled. Why build training facilities when every park, every playground, every empty lot serves the same purpose? Humans don't need specialized combat training zones. We turn every environment into a training ground. The holoscreen shifted again, showing various human sports. Basketball teaches three-dimensional combat maneuvering. Chess develops strategic planning. Video games, advanced combat simulators that we give to children. Even our entertainment is combat training. She pulled up data from the Jupiter incident. Commander Martinez's tactics weren't developed in a military academy. They came from a popular children's game called Asteroids, one he played obsessively as a child. When faced with real asteroids and real enemies, he already had thousands of hours of relevant training. The council chamber had gone deathly quiet. Amanda's next words fell like stones in still water. Humans are not just warriors. We're not just persistence predators. We're something far more dangerous. We're perpetual students of war who don't even realize we're studying it. A new hologram appeared. A human child's birthday party. This celebration, it's actually a lesson in resource management and alliance building. The piñata, training for coordinated group attacks on a defended target. The party games, exercises in competition, teamwork, and adapting to changing rule sets. She gestured to her own notes. I've been studying these patterns for years, and even I sometimes forget that I'm doing it. Right now, part of my mind is analyzing this room for defensive positions, cataloging potential improvised weapons, and maintaining awareness of every exit. It's not a conscious choice. It's just how we think. The Galactic Council's premier, a usually stoic Arcturian, showed signs of distress. Are you suggesting that every human is a potential combat unit? No, Amanda replied, her voice gentle but firm. I'm telling you that every human is already a combat unit. We're born that way. The only question is what kind of warriors we choose to be. She called up one final image. Earth's children playing peacefully alongside alien young on colony worlds. This is why we've never lost a war. But it's also why we've never had to fight most of our potential enemies. We don't just train to fight. We train to understand conflict itself. And understanding conflict is the first step to preventing it. As the council chamber erupted in urgent discussion, Amanda gathered her materials. Her report would join the warning archives, but not as a warning of human aggression. Instead, it would stand as a testament to a species that had turned their predatory nature into something more, a shield for those who couldn't fight for themselves. She had one final note to add to her report. The most dangerous thing about humans isn't that we're good at fighting. It's that we're good at teaching others to fight too. And that, more than any weapon, is what makes us undefeated. Admiral James Reynolds stared at the holographic display of the Orion Trade Corridor, where hundreds of red dots represented the mercantile Concordat's blockade fleet. Traditional military doctrine would call this situation hopeless. Earth's heavy warships were still under construction, and their current fleet consisted mainly of armed merchant vessels. Status report on the Wolfpack program, he demanded, not taking his eyes off the display. Captain Michael Torres, his chief of special projects, stepped forward. The conversion process is complete, sir. 50 merchant ships have been modified according to your specifications. The Concordat still thinks they're just cargo haulers. Reynolds allowed himself a slight smile. And our special cargo. Loaded and ready. Each ship's cargo hold has been converted into a carrier bay. The new microfighters are fueled, and their pilots are standing by. The Admiral's plan had been called insane by half his staff. Converting merchant ships into carriers was unconventional enough, but filling them with single-pilot fighters, the size of shuttlecraft, it went against every rule of space combat. The Concordat psychology profile just arrived, sir. Lieutenant Emma Foster added from her intelligence station. They're exactly what we hoped. Rigid thinkers, absolutely convinced of their technological superiority. Their tactical doctrine hasn't changed in 3 centuries. Reynolds nodded. And that's why they'll lose. Send the signal. Operation Market Garden is go. Across the Sol system, 50 ordinary-looking merchant ships began their supposedly routine trade runs. Their transponders identified them as carrying everything from agricultural products to industrial materials. The Concordat's blockade fleet performed their standard scans, finding nothing more threatening than the small point defense weapons common on trade routes. First wave approaching the checkpoint, Torres reported. Concordat ships are moving to intercept. They're demanding cargo inspection. Right on schedule, Reynolds murmured. Execute Phase 1. The lead merchant ship, the Lucky Star, transmitted its compliance. As the Concordat cruiser moved alongside, the cargo bay doors exploded outward, not from damage, but by design. Wolfpacks launching. From each merchant ship erupted a swarm of fighters, each one barely large enough for its pilot and its oversized engines. They were too small for heavy weapons or strong shields, but they were also too small for standard targeting systems to lock onto effectively. The Concordat fleet reacted with textbook precision, moving to protect their capital ships. It was exactly the wrong move. Phase 2, Reynolds ordered. Show them why we call them Wolfpacks. The tiny fighters formed up into groups of 5, each pack moving with perfect coordination. They didn't target the capital ships. Instead, they went after the blockade's communication arrays, sensor nodes, and fire control systems. Their small size made them nearly invisible to the large ships' targeting systems, while their numbers overwhelmed point defense networks. Sir, Foster's voice carried a note of triumph. They're trying to adapt their formation to counter the fighters, but it's creating gaps in the blockade line. Phase 3, Reynolds said calmly. Release the real cargo. The modified merchant ships, now empty of their fighter complements, revealed their final surprise. Their hulls split open like blooming flowers, releasing clouds of self-replicating repair nanites, civilian technology repurposed as a weapon. The nanites swarmed over the Concordat ships, not destroying them, but systematically disabling their weapons and communications. Within 3 hours, the greatest blockade fleet ever assembled had been reduced to floating hulks, their crews unharmed, but their ships completely neutralized. "Send the message," Reynolds ordered as the last Concordat ship went dark. The transmission was broadcast on all frequencies. "Your ships will be returned to full functionality once you've cleared the trade corridor. Next time, remember, humans don't just trade goods. We trade in lessons." Later, as he filed his report, Reynolds added a personal note. "The greatest weapon in Earth's arsenal isn't our technology or our tactics. It's our ability to turn our opponent's assumptions against them. They expected merchants, so we gave them merchants, just not the kind they were prepared for." The Orion Trade Corridor incident would go down in history not just as another victory, but as the day the galaxy learned that humans could win wars without destroying a single enemy ship. It was a lesson the mercantile Concordat would never forget. Lieutenant Hannah Mitchell was staring at her combat interface when the first Xanthari probe hit Earth's digital defense network. She'd been playing cat videos to stay awake during her night shift at the Quantum Computing Defense Center, which would later be called the most fortunate coincidence in military history. "Ma'am," her AI assistant chimed, "I'm detecting multiple infiltration attempts across all networks. The attack pattern is unlike anything in our database." Hannah minimized her video feed of a kitten playing piano and pulled up the threat display. What she saw made her sit up straight. The Xanthari weren't just attacking their military networks. They were trying to interface directly with Earth's entire internet. "Get me a line to command," she ordered, but the communications were already dead. The Xanthari had struck every major military communication channel simultaneously. Then she noticed something odd about the attack pattern. The Xanthari hive mind wasn't just trying to disable their systems, it was trying to understand them. Their probes were downloading and processing everything they could access, attempting to build a complete model of human digital culture. Hannah started laughing. "Lieutenant?" Her AI assistant seemed concerned. "I fail to see the humor in this situation. They think they can process and understand the entire internet at once," Hannah said, still chuckling. "They have no idea what they're getting into." Her fingers flew over the quantum interface as she began her counterattack. Instead of trying to stop the Xanthari from accessing Earth's networks, she started opening more pathways, all of them leading to very specific parts of human digital culture. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" The AI's voice carried a note of alarm. "Fighting fire with cats," Hannah replied. "And memes, and conspiracy theories, and every contradictory, illogical, wonderful bit of chaos humans have ever put online." The Xanthari hive mind, accustomed to perfect order and logic, began encountering things it couldn't process. Cat videos that led to conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories that led to medieval art memes. Memes that led to philosophical debates about whether hot dogs were sandwiches. Hannah watched the attack pattern begin to fragment. The hive mind was trying to make sense of it all, trying to find the logic, the pattern, the meaning behind why humans would spend so much time arguing about pizza toppings or creating elaborate theories about whether birds were real. "They're attempting to adapt," the AI reported. "Their processing power it's beyond anything we've seen." "Good," Hannah said, launching the next phase of her defense. "Let's see how they handle recursive memes." She released what would later be called the memetic bomb, a carefully crafted package of self-referential jokes, paradoxical arguments, and cultural references that only made sense if you already understood other references, which themselves required understanding even more references. The Xanthari collective's attack pattern began to show signs of stress. Their perfect synchronization started to break down as different parts of the hive mind encountered different pieces of human digital culture and tried to reconcile them. Their processing speed is dropping, the AI reported. They're getting stuck in logic loops trying to determine if a hot dog is a sandwich or not. Hannah launched her final attack. A massive dump of every cat video, meme, conspiracy theory, and social media argument she could access, all interlinked in a way that made perfect sense to human minds, but was completely incomprehensible to the Xanthuri's rigid logical structure. The effect was instantaneous. The hive mind's attack collapsed as it encountered something it had never expected. A digital culture built on embracing chaos, contradiction, and cats. When communications were restored an hour later, the reports started coming in. The entire Xanthuri collective had gone into a temporary shutdown, their hive mind overwhelmed by trying to process whether birds were government drones and why humans found pictures of cats with poor grammar so entertaining. Hannah's after-action report was simple. The Xanthuri tried to process human culture through pure logic. They never stood a chance. The incident would go down in history as the day Earth won a war with memes, and Hannah Mitchell would be forever known as the officer who weaponized cat videos. But more importantly, it taught the galaxy a crucial lesson. Human strength wasn't just in their technology or their strategies. It was in their ability to thrive in and weaponize pure chaos. Major Ryan Cooper was already having coffee when the Time War began. The Temporal Defense Initiative's warning systems had given them a 3-day head start, an irony not lost on anyone dealing with time travel. Status report. He called out to his team as he entered the underground command center. The massive quantum chronometric display showed hundreds of temporal incursion points spanning Earth's history. Lieutenant Rachel Brooks, his chief temporal analyst, looked up from her station. "They're hitting everything, sir. World War I, the Industrial Revolution, the Agricultural Revolution, even trying to prevent the first moon landing." "Smart targets," Cooper noted, taking a sip of his coffee, "but predictable. Show me the pattern analysis." The holographic display shifted, revealing the enemy's temporal attack strategy. Their future tech was impressive. Warships that could slide between time streams like fish through water. But they were making one critical mistake. "They think time is a line," Cooper said, a slight smile playing at his lips. "Show them why it's not." The TDI had been preparing for this kind of attack since its formation, not with advanced technology. Earth was still decades behind their attackers in temporal engineering. Instead, they'd developed something far more dangerous, an understanding of how human nature affected the time stream. "Launch Operation Butterfly," Cooper ordered, "and someone get Dr. Walker's report on human adaptability up here. The one that scared the Galactic Council." The first phase of their defense was counterintuitive. They started helping the enemy. When future tech warships appeared in Earth's past, TDI agents were already there, seemingly assisting the temporal attacks. "Sir," Brooks called out, "they're taking the bait. Their ships are spreading out further, trying to hit more targets." Cooper nodded. "They think they're winning. That's Phase 1 complete. Begin Phase 2, the uncertainty cascade." This was where human understanding of chaos theory met temporal warfare. At each incursion point, the helpful TDI agents had been installing quantum uncertainty bombs, devices that didn't damage physical space, but instead shattered probability itself. Detonation in 5, 4, 3. When the bombs went off, they didn't explode. They simply made everything uncertain. In World War II, every single soldier suddenly made slightly different decisions than they had in the original timeline. During the Industrial Revolution, inventors had slightly different ideas. At the moon landing, Neil Armstrong decided to tell a different bad joke. The effect on the enemy's temporal calculations was catastrophic. Their entire attack strategy relied on precise cause and effect. But humans had just introduced uncertainty into every single calculation. Their ships are losing temporal lock, Brooks reported, fighting back a grin. They can't calculate their way back to their own time, because every reference point is now probability instead of certainty. Cooper watched as the enemy fleet began to dissolve on the temporal display. Some ships were caught in causality loops, others were scattered across probability space. A few simply ceased to exist as their own historical certainty became questionable. "Send the message," he ordered, "the one we prepared, across every time stream, every probability branch, and every quantum reality." The same message reached the enemy command. "Time isn't a weapon you can use against us. It's a friend we've learned to dance with. Consider this your only warning." The Time War ended before it had properly begun, another victory added to Earth's perfect record. But this one came with a special note in Cooper's final report. The enemy's mistake wasn't in their technology or their strategy. Their mistake was in thinking that time was something you could control. Humans don't try to control time. We surf it like a wave, adapt to its changes, and find opportunities in its chaos. They'd brought an algorithm to a probability fight. Years later, when asked how Earth had won a time war without time travel technology, Cooper would always give the same answer. "We didn't need to change history. We just needed to make it impossible for anyone else to change it either. Sometimes, the best defense is making sure nobody can win." The Temporal Defense Initiative would go on to become one of Earth's most crucial military assets, not because they could change time, but because they understood something far more important: how to make peace with its uncertainty. Colonel Emily Nash stood before the holographic display of the Pleiades sector, where dozens of red icons marked the latest attacks by the Scarlet Armada, a collection of space pirates and raiders that had been terrorizing peaceful colonies for months. "Show me the latest distress call," she ordered, her expression grim. The message came from a small agricultural colony, one of many established by species who had never developed military technology. The caller's transparent features trembled as they spoke. "This is New Haven Colony. The raiders are back, stronger this time. We know Earth doesn't usually interfere in external conflicts, but please, our children." Nash turned to her strategic team. "How many times have we received similar calls this month?" 17, Colonel. Captain David Rodriguez replied. "All from different species, all peaceful colonies. The raiders are getting bolder." Nash had been working on a new military doctrine, one that would transform Earth's reputation from a feared warrior to something more. Today, she would test it. "Launch Operation Guardian Angel," she commanded. "All ships, execute protection protocols." The response was immediate. Across the sector, ships that had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as merchant vessels, repair stations, and even pieces of space debris, revealed their true nature. Earth had been preparing this for months, positioning defenders near every vulnerable colony. "First contact with raider forces," Rodriguez reported. "They're targeting the New Haven colony." "Wait, something's different. Their tactics have changed." Nash nodded. "They've studied our previous battles. They think they know how Earth fights." A slight smile crossed her face. "Show them how wrong they are." The pirates had indeed studied Earth's combat record. The direct confrontations, the clever traps, the unconventional tactics. But they weren't prepared for what came next. Earth's ships didn't attack the raiders. Instead, they created an impenetrable defense screen around each colony, using new technology that could redirect the pirates' own weapon energy to power protective fields. Behind these shields, Earth's forces began evacuating civilians with unprecedented speed and precision. "Colonel," Lieutenant Sarah Chen called out, "the raiders are adapting, trying to find weak points in our defense network." "Perfect," Nash replied. Phase 2. As the pirates concentrated their forces on breaking through the shields, they failed to notice the small drones attaching to their ships' hulls. Each drone carried a payload not of weapons, but of advanced medical nanites, repurposed from the same technology that had once defeated the mercantile Concordat. Nanite integration at 60%, Chen reported. Their crews are starting to feel the effects. The raiders soon discovered that their aggression was fading, their desire for violence dampened by nanites that regulated their brain chemistry. It wasn't mind control, just a gentle push toward empathy and reason. "Open a channel to all raider ships," Nash ordered. Her message was simple. "We could have destroyed you. Instead, we've given you a choice. The nanites in your systems will wear off in 24 hours. What you do after that is up to you. But remember, every colony in this sector is now under Earth's protection, and we never lose." The raiders retreated, their fleet scattered, and their crews shaken not by defeat in battle, but by their first taste of enforced empathy. In the days that followed, several raider ships would return, not to attack, but to request asylum and offer their services as defenders. Nash's report to Earth Command was straightforward. "Today we proved that the most powerful weapon in our arsenal isn't our ability to destroy, but our capacity to protect. The galaxy feared us for being undefeated in war. Let them respect us for being undefeated in peace." The Guardian Protocol would become Earth's new standard for military engagement. Colonies under Earth's protection would display a simple symbol, a blue shield with a white star. Pirates and raiders soon learned to avoid any system bearing that mark, not for fear of destruction, but for fear of being transformed by the species that had mastered both the art of war and the science of peace. As Nash reviewed the final casualty reports, 0 civilian casualties, 0 enemy casualties, she added a personal note. Perhaps the greatest victory isn't in remaining undefeated, but in teaching others that victory doesn't always require defeat. Jessica Thompson sat in the Archive's central chamber, surrounded by holographic displays of every warning she cataloged over the past month. Each one told a different story of Earth's undefeated record, but now she could see the pattern that everyone else had missed. "You've been here for 18 hours straight," Kex noted, his crystalline form catching the light, as he brought her another cup of coffee. "Found what you were looking for." "I found something no one was looking for," she replied, pulling up the timeline she'd constructed. Everyone was so focused on the warnings about Earth's combat prowess that they missed the evolution. The timeline floated before them, starting with the Drachnid mining fleet incident. She highlighted key points as she spoke. "Look at the pattern. Commander Martinez didn't just defeat the Drachnids, he showed them how to think creatively. Dr. Walker's analysis wasn't just about human combat psychology. It was a lesson in understanding different species' perspectives." Kex's multiple eyes focused on the display. "And Admiral Reynolds. He proved that victory doesn't require destruction. The mercantile Concordat lost their battle, but gained new trade strategies. Lieutenant Mitchell's defense against the Zenthari taught them the value of chaos and adaptation. Major Cooper's temporal defense showed the galaxy how to make peace with uncertainty." She stood, walking through the holographic timeline. "And Colonel Nash. She transformed everything. Earth didn't just remain undefeated. They made victory about protection rather than dominance." Jessica pulled up the original warnings, playing them in sequence. The early ones were full of fear and panic about Earth's combat capabilities. But the later ones, they were different. The warnings change. Kex realized, his crystalline structure pulsing with understanding. "Exactly," Jessica said, smiling. They stopped being warnings about Earth's power and started becoming instructions on how to earn their protection. Every species that fought Earth ended up learning from them, growing because of them. She began composing her own warning, but this one was different from all the others. As she wrote, holograms of Earth's greatest victories floated around her. Not the moments of combat, but the moments of transformation that followed. The galaxy needed these warnings, she continued, but not for the reason everyone thought. They're not a testament to Earth's undefeated record. They're a chronicle of how humanity teaches through conflict. Every battle they've won has made their opponents stronger, wiser, more adaptable. Her warning took shape in the air before them. To all species who encounter Earth, you are not reading a warning about a threat. You are reading an invitation to evolution. Earth remains undefeated, not because they cannot be beaten, but because they have mastered something far more powerful than victory. They have mastered the art of teaching through conflict. If you come in peace, you will find mentors. If you come in war, you will find teachers. If you come for protection, you will find guardians. If you come with questions, you will find guides. Earth's perfect combat record is not a threat. It is a promise that every encounter with them, whether in peace or war, will leave you stronger than before. They are not undefeated because they cannot lose. They are undefeated because they transform their enemies into allies. This is not a warning. This is an invitation to join the species that has learned to turn combat into creation, conflict into growth, and victory into partnership. Approach with respect, leave with understanding. The choice, as always, is yours. As Jessica filed the warning, Kex noticed something unique about her classification. You've marked this as both a warning and a recruitment notice. She nodded, looking at the vast archive of warnings that had led her to this understanding. Because that's what Earth has been doing all along. Every victory was a lesson. Every battle was an invitation. We just didn't have the right context to see it. The warning would indeed become the most widely distributed document in galactic history. But not out of fear. Species across the galaxy began to seek out Earth, not as a potential enemy, but as a teacher. Earth's undefeated record remained perfect, but its meaning had changed forever. It was no longer a record of battles won, but of civilizations transformed.